Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Rewrite the Mother Code with me, your host, Dr. Gertrude Lyons. Today, I'm joined by Lara J. Day. And so Lara came across my screen and reached out to share about what has brought into the world. And it's so beautiful. And I'm so excited to have you here, kind of her dig in and explain and share about the 13 sacred nights. And so let me tell you a little bit about Lara and how she's bringing that into being. So she's the author of the 13 Sacred Nights Oracle. So Lara's on a mission to reclaim the hyper-commercialized holidays and return the soul to the solstice. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. Lara is also the creator of neurogenic Qigong, her own unique and innovative healing method, which interweaves Chinese energy medicine with tension and trauma releasing. Neurogenic tremor work. Lara has been teaching energy arts since 2003 and is unspeakably grateful for her teachers and the chance to view this absurd and perfectly magnificent life from the energetic perspective. And you're going to love Lara's energy and this conversation that may kind of sound like, oh, it's just about a method, but it goes so far beyond that, and looking at the importance of ritual, the importance of honoring. And it's something that's so I value so much in the work I do and, bring into my retreats and into my coaching, and is to reconnect us to the rhythms of nature. And the fact that we've become so disconnected from them is really harming us. And it's really limiting us in our lives. And it's making us sick. It has us so off base. So anywhere where we can find practices that do that recharge us, reconnect, and using particularly the sacred nights around the winter solstice. So tune in, stay tuned, and we'll talk a little bit about it at the end of the episode and convene there. So I hope to have you all the way through. And without further ado, let's bring on Lara. All right. So as promised, here I am on the show with Lara J. Day. Lara, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation and dive into, what you have brought into the world and birthed into the world with your 13 Sacred Nights Oracle. But there's so much more than that, right? And so much more of a important conversation to have. And if you don't mind, even though people have just heard a little bit about you, if you would go ahead and kind of just share how you got to be here with what you're doing now and some of your journey.
Yeah. Gosh, well, it depends on how far back you want to go in the journey, but
I know it's whatever comes up is fine. Yeah.
But I would say a really big turning point for me was the year that my daughter was born in many ways. About 3 months after she was born, I tripped into chronic illness. And so that was the beginning of a very deep dive into all things related to wellness on a physical level, emotional level, and spiritual level for me, which I was already interested in. I'd already been teaching yoga for 7 years at that point, and, was already in that world of health and wellness and spirituality and seeking. But when you are up against a wall in that way and not feeling well, it really motivates you to dive a lot deeper than you would otherwise. So that was the beginning of a deep dive for me. And it was also the year that I met my Qigong teacher. And she's actually the one who introduced me to the 13 Sacred Nights practice. So,
okay.
So, as children often do, they bring a whole cascade of gifts and life
our
changes
teachers. Yes,
yes. Yeah. Yes. So I learned the 13 Sacred Nights practice the year she was born. And, I was really just looking for ways to bring more meaning and more magic into our sort of hyper commercialized, shallow, holidays that most of us kind of sleepwalk through this revolving door of shopping, sugar, and alcohol. And we've just completely forgotten the original meaning of these holidays. We don't really pause and think what we want them to mean, what would be nourishing, what would be, bring value to us as individuals and to our families and whatnot. So I fell in love with the practice, and and then I just, over the years, just wanted to share it with all my girlfriends and, anyone and everyone. And they'd be asking for more. And can you, or, they'd call me halfway through the practice and say, oh, did it start yet? And I'd be like, oh my gosh, we're in July, or whatever, because I'll explain the nature of the practice in a minute.
Yeah,
But,
good.
yeah, but eventually I had one girlfriend who said, will you make a calendar for us? Because we all really want to do this with you. It sounds amazing, but we need some extra guidance. And so I thought that sounds like a fun little side project. And then fast forward 4 years later, and I had created the 13 Sacred Nights Oracle deck. So it is a beautiful practice. What I love about it, it's all about aligning with the quiet and the darkness and the potent stillness of midwinter, the season of darkness, when we are out, shopping compulsively, overindulging in sugar and alcohol, jam-packing our December calendars. It's the busiest time of year for most folks, flooding our lawns with LED light displays. It's just sort of like a slap in the face to the darkness. Like, no, we will not be quiet.
Yes.
We will not be still. We will not dive inward, and we're really just completely distracted from the true gift of the season of darkness. It's really this opportunity to wrap yourself in that blanket of darkness. And I like to think of, the metaphor of like lighting a match in broad daylight. It's kind of underwhelming. But if you were to light a match in the darkness, it's really clear where the light is.
Yeah.
So the gift of the winter solstice season is that we have this opportunity to participate in and witness the rebirth of our own internal spark for the coming cycle of seasons. So we are, we're recognizing these little sparks of desire or inspiration that are igniting within us in that womb of winter, in the fertile soil of the darkness, where we plant our dream seeds so that they'll sprout in the spring, fully expand into bloom in summertime, when we're living the dream that we planted in the womb of winter. And then in the fall, we're harvesting the fruits of our labor. We're reflecting on the cycle gone by before diving back in for another cycle of seasons. So it's this really delightful and sweet practice, and yet it's really plugging you into aligning with the rhythm of the seasons, which is quite empowering, and it's powerful in a way that is that's surprising, I think.
Well, how so?
At least it was for me, to begin to align with those energies and those rhythms, and to notice how it really amplifies your awareness of your own co-creative nature. So, yeah.
And well, I just saw your face, like it really surprised me. So that's why I just, if there was any more you wanted to say about like what a surprise that was.
For me, it was surprising how affecting this practice was, because, like I said, I, at this point now I have 3 decades of yoga practice, Qigong practice. I do love self-help books. So I've read like every self-help book on the market and gone to, I don't know how many retreats and teachers and, and then all those, I was sick for about a decade. And so, and so I really explored just about every modality out there. And I was living in Boulder, Colorado at the time, where like the guru of everything is there. And so, and all the alternative modalities and everything. So, so I dove pretty deep, and I can honestly say, out of all those practices and all that seeking, this sweet little magical holiday practice has really moved the needle for me more than any other practice, as far as the way that I walk through my daily life with more attention on or awareness to the conversation that we are always having with the divine, whether we recognize it or not. So the reason for that is that we have this beautiful 13-day window, again, in the the cloak of the darkness. So we really have nature supporting us in getting quiet and diving inward. And so you learn to walk through those 13 days and nights, again, more aware of that divine conversation, that partner dance that we're either conscious of it or we're, getting drug along
Mm.
unknowingly, and so the 13 days in and of itself is really profound because it's not, a 10-minute meditation, a 20-minute meditation, even a 2-hour meditation. It really is the definition of learning to take the meditation off the mat and to walk through your 24-hour cycle for 13 days,
Mm.
more present. And it's a practice. It's like a boot camp in mindfulness. So
Yeah,
that's one thing that over the years really strengthened that muscle in me to be more
sure.
present, to be constantly in conversation with God, to aware of that relationship.
Mm.
And then the other thing is that you're gathering all this beautiful information and guidance throughout the 13 days. So let me pause and talk about
Sure.
the structure a little bit
Yeah,
of
that
this
would be great.
practice.
Like, let's
Yeah.
get kind of our
Yeah.
arms wrapped around it and really, but I love everything that you're saying. I'll just make one comment because
Yeah.
I want to hear the structure. I'm like, I'm kind of, at first I was like, oh, we should have done this closer to the time. And then I'm like, no, like, and maybe I'll remember to like put it out again, closer to the time because this will give us all a chance to be able to do it when it comes. So that was one
Yes.
thing. And then I just wanted to, because I might forget later and we'll go somewhere else, but how we have been, culture has kind of turned its back on the dark, right? And
Yeah.
I wrote a course called, Journey into the Dark after I read Clark Strand's book, Waking Up to the Dark, Ancient Wisdom for a Sleepless Age. And I don't know if you're familiar with that book. I think you'd love it. But it was the first, because
Yeah.
I've always felt that way, that we're so off in that time of year and how we're living it. And
Yeah.
even though I'd go along with it, it just something never
Yeah.
felt like
Well,
quite
our
right.
culture is pushing constant productivity, right?
Productivity. And that's
And
what his
endless
book is
summer.
about, is
Yeah.
like, really one of our biggest problems. And one of these inflection points was the light bulb and us
Right.
suddenly, yes, we had fire and a candle and you could, have some light in the dark, but a light bulb and that level of light, it's done horrific things for us because
Yeah.
it just reinforced that like we should be productive all the time
Right.
and getting us off our natural rhythms. But not only that, but to fear the dark. I mean, that's the thing that upsets me the most because I also really hold the dark as the feminine, and it's like, oh, here's another way that we are, demonizing or, kind of making the dark bad and light is good and all
Right.
the things that we've been
Right.
trained to like believe about it. So
Right.
those were all things that, drew me to and why I was so excited to have this conversation. But then
Yeah.
to have a practice, I might do something on the solstice, or I really have been trying to hold, not to jump in at New Year's like, oh my God, I got to know my goals and start them like January 1st. And it's
Right.
like, this was the first year I was like, nope, not, I'm going to like ease into the year. And it was hard, it was really hard. So I'm excited to have this, structures are good. And, even though
Yeah.
it's a beautiful seasonal structure, it's still a practice. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
that
No,
now,
I
and
love
now
I love all of that. Yeah, and I love what you said too about the light bulb because my first year of my training with my Qigong teacher, she said the electric light bulb was the most damaging invention for the human energy
yeah,
body, and I
yes.
never really fully grokked that until a handful of years ago when I started focusing on my circadian rhythm and my circadian biology and waking up with the sunrise. I had to like retrain myself because my daughter, from the day she was born, she was like a late night musician in training. She's a total night owl.
Wow.
And she was when she was an infant. And so I would just,
Uh,
for survival's sake, sleep when she slept, and so I ended up shifting my rhythm. And so
hmm.
a handful of years ago, I had to shift it back. And it was challenging and painful. And I remember my cousin was making fun of me. He was like, "It's because you're changing back from a bat into a human." But once I finally did it, it was astounding to me how much better I felt and how much better I
Wow.
slept. And I slip in and out of being good about it, but it really is, we're meant to live in connection with nature, and our modern lifestyles just have us so cut off
So cut off.
from her intelligence, from her rhythms, and so yes, to echo everything that you
Good.
said, I agree. But so this is a
Thank you.
practice, yeah,
Yeah.
that
Let's
has
hear it.
for me just the right amount of structure to give you something to grab onto, but it's also loose enough that anyone can make it their own. It's non-denominational, so feel free to keep your current holiday traditions if they nourish you and bring you joy. Also, I just want to give everyone permission to let go of anything that they do not feel is serving them. But so this practice is 13 days long. And the first day of the practice actually begins on the winter solstice, the longest,
Okay.
darkest night of the year. So solstice actually means sun, sol, and sistere, to stand still in the Latin, right? So the sun standing still. And what happens on the solstice is that we have, again, the least amount of light, the shortest day, and the longest night. And after that, for 3 days, the sun appears to stand still on the horizon. So sol sistere, sun standing still. And so those first initial 3 days of the practice are essentially just a preparation time for you to think about, what do I want to bring into this new cycle of seasons, and to get yourself ready for the 13-day dive so that you have less busy work to do during the actual practice itself. So if you want to meditate some more, maybe you need to get a new meditation chair, a new meditation cushion or pillow, or if you want to I don't know, do more cycling. Maybe you need to get your bike tires pumped up, or, I have no idea. Whatever the things are that you want to bring into your new cycle, you just kind of get ready for the practice. You start thinking about, what do I want in my life? What do I want to change? What do I want to keep? And then the first actual sacred night begins at sundown on December 24th and follows through until sundown on December 25th. So that first 24-hour period, sundown to sundown, so darkness to darkness, actually is a foreshadowing or a representation, a blueprint of the entire cycle of seasons to come. And then so January through December, or winter, spring, summer, fall. And then the following 12, 24-hour periods, sundown to sundown, so that would look like sundown the 25th to sundown the 26th is January. Sundown the 26th to sundown the 27th is February, and so on. So what you're doing during this 13-day window is creating a roadmap. And so you have a journal. My daughter and I love to go every year. We actually go to Barnes and Noble. They've got like a great wall of really pretty, journals, and we pick out a special journal every year. And then, you're doing two things. One, you're drawing your oracle cards for each night. So you have a guide from the oracle card for each month in the coming cycle. And then you're also just gathering information. And the way you do that is, again, just by being mindful, being present, basically just paying attention to everything that's happening in your world, whether that's externally in events that are unfolding. A song came on the radio. I had this conversation with a checker at the grocery store, so-and-so called, whatever the seemingly mundane and unimportant details are of your life that are unfolding, as well as your internal life. I was, feeling emotional, whatever it is, you're just journaling everything. People always ask me, but what do I write down in my journal? Just anything, whatever is happening externally and internally. It doesn't have to be profound. It might be profound. You might be having an epiphany of sorts, but it doesn't have to be. You're just logging your 13 days. So you're drawing oracle cards,
gathering information, sensing, opening yourself up. Okay. I love
noticing
this.
what the animals are doing. The animals are always like a little extra mischievous during that 13-day window. I had a baby Cooper's hawk come and sit like 5 feet from my front door for like half the holy nights a few years ago. And it was the wildest thing. But so that's the receive bit. And then the second piece, because it's co-creation, is that, again, those dream seeds that are sparking inside of you, the things that you're desiring for the coming cycle, you're making sure that you actually do those things during this 13-day window. So rather than just writing down your list of New Year's resolutions, if you want to meditate more, make sure you're doing that during the 13 days. If you want to, I don't know, hula hoop more, whatever it is, do it during the 13 days. If you want to have a certain person in your life, make sure you reach out to them, whether it's a text or an email or a phone call or a coffee date during the
Sure.
13 days. So you're creating this very real blueprint of the coming cycle. Again, co-creation by receiving and
Mm-hmm.
also by giving your desires to this stream of energy that I swear it is like a legit riptide of energy that's moving through. And
You're really tapping
you
into
just
what
stamp
that energy is.
you
Wow.
stamp
Mm,
your imprint right into it, and it just gets
sure.
swept right into your future. Um, so I was talking a little bit about the gifts earlier, and saying one of the gifts is this practice, this boot camp of mindfulness, of returning to this practice of being aware and present year after year. But the other gift is that you've now created this really rich, hyper personal, roadmap between you and whatever you call the mystery, whether that's God or source or spirit or the angels
Mm-hmm.
or, however you name that something greater. And throughout the year, as your life is unfolding, it is laugh out loud, goosebump inducing. You find yourself looking up at the sky, just like, are you kidding me? So many times. The way that the cards line up with your life, the way that the,
Yes.
the random details that you wrote down in your journal end up lining up with your life. It really serves to concretize your faith in
Mm-hmm.
magic, in there's something greater happening here, in your faith in God, source, spirit.
Yeah.
So there's been so many really unexpected, profound gifts that
Mm.
this practice has given me, over the past 17 years. Yeah.
Well, and you've been it also it's given it to you, but you've intentionally, opened yourself to it, and then you noticed when you were getting when it was
Right.
happening, right? Like that sounds obvious, but it isn't always. It's like, if we might like, oh, I'll do the 13 days, but then we kind of go back to sleep, or we just expect it to, hit us in the face, but it really kind of is. And then,
Right. Yes.
but we're not noticing. So,
Right.
I love that part of it. But
Yeah.
Lara, this is, you're speaking my language. I love this so much. And, particularly around there's about 5 places I want to go as you were talking.
Just
But
start with
first,
one. We'll get there.
we'll start
Yeah.
with one. We'll start with one because I am a big advocate, a big, practice like of ritual. And I know that's, this is a ritual but it isn't like, oh, I do a 13-day ritual and then no more ritual, right? Like
Yeah.
I see it as like a way to see like, oh, I'm building ritual into my life and seeing, because we are ritualistic creatures,
Yeah.
we, you may have a ritual of the time you walk into Starbucks and exactly how you order, and that,
Right.
and what that drink is, that becomes a ritual. Because when we do something
That's why the habit of
over and
coffee is
over,
so hard to kick. It is
yes, because
a morning ritual for so
it's
many.
a morning ritual. It has
Yeah.
energy. It's,
Yeah.
it has so many components of, it's not even like that. It's not a horrible ritual of any, but sometimes
Yeah.
you can add on to it. It isn't that we have to get rid of Starbucks. It's like, oh, what
No.
is this ritual? What am I trying to get for,
Yeah.
what do I want really, and
Well,
is this it?
yes. And this is part of the conversation that I've been trying to bring to the surface is for us to really become aware of what our rituals are. Because again, right
Mm-hmm.
now we're sleepwalking through these rituals that have been spoon fed to us and have become just
Yes.
hyper commercialized. And I think ritual is important for 2 reasons. One, if you believe that human consciousness is divinely co creative, which I do, when we
Yes.
all pause as a society and direct our attention in one way and engage in similar behaviors, that's incredibly powerful because it's
Mm-hmm.
powerful for one of us to engage in ritual and co-create in that way. But when we're all pausing collectively, and doing that together, it's just immensely powerful beyond what we can imagine. So that's one
Yeah.
thing. And then the other thing is it's also the way that we teach our children, hey, this is what's most important in this culture that you've been born into, about this is what's most sacred about being human, right? So think about it. Mom and dad, typically get the day off of work. The kids are pulled out of school. Everybody around you is kind of basically doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is important. Pay attention, right? And so, what are we teaching our children right now? We're teaching them that materialism is sacred, that
Mm-hmm.
commercialism is of utmost importance, that
Yeah.
sugar and alcohol are what we
Yep.
worship. And so, so in more than one way, I think ritual is profoundly powerful, and I think it would behoove us as individuals, and individually and collectively, to consciously pause and choose and think about how we want to celebrate our sacred moments throughout the
Yeah.
year. And it doesn't mean throwing
Absolutely.
the baby out with the bathwater. If you
Right.
have traditions that nourish you, that feel good, that bring you joy, that connect you with your friends and family or whatever it is, by all means, keep that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But again, permission to throw out that which is not no longer helpful, isn't serving you,
No,
it isn't nourishing you on some level.
I agree. And especially when if with however you're raised and what those rituals are, to pause, when you're now on your own, as an adult, that it's not turning your back on anything, but it is, there's something radical about it in some ways, because family cultures are so strong, right? And you don't veer from them in some of them, without hearing about it. And we hesitate
Backlash.
to do
Yeah.
it, right? Some backlash. But as you said, I think it's so empowering to just step back and say, like, okay, like what do I like about the rituals? Say it's around particularly like the holidays. If it's Christmas, or whatever, the say it's Christmas, how have we practiced it? What do I like about it? What don't I like about it? What have I learned about myself and my values and my desires, and what matches and what doesn't? And yeah, there might be some beautiful things that you keep.
Right.
Or if we are going to keep gift giving, how do we put a meaning onto it that isn't just about, like, because I remember that as a kid, it's like, I loved the presents. I loved Santa
Yeah.
Claus. I loved like the whole thing. But I would always feel like sad and empty when, like, where's more
Right.
presents? Because
Yes. It's
it
the Christmas
wasn't
hangover,
really
I call
giving
that.
me, yeah, it wasn't giving me like that deeper a connection or that. So how do we, build that into it? And I think it's a really important grown up practice to name and acknowledge, like, what are your rituals going to be? And as my husband and I were creating, and it's something we worked on pretty consciously, and knowing that we weren't going to, like, come in, when we say we were going to one of our parents and come in and say, like, now we're going to do it this way because our way is better.
Right.
It was like, okay, well, we'd see the holidays as a season, and make sure we had done our season, we had done our holiday how we wanted to, and we felt full. We felt like, and now it's time with family, and we can, be there and not expect it to give us something that it
Right.
never gave us to begin with. So
Right.
we keep coming
Yeah.
back thinking it's going to give us that. And it was, such an empowering thing for us as individuals, and our relationship, to create those together. It's something I really, encourage couples to do when I work with them is, don't these are rituals, like you said, they're so powerful, and
Hmm. Yeah.
they can keep us tied. So I definitely wanted us to talk about, and that we need to be, we can just need to be curious, ask questions, and create something that means something to us.
Yeah. Yeah. So I find that for me, one of the simplest places to start is to just pay attention to what nature is doing during each
Yes.
holiday, and to use that as a starting point for inspiration. So, in the wintertime, again, we're wrapped in this cloak of darkness, as above, so below, as without, so within. What's happening in nature out there?
Hmm.
And the same thing is being mirrored internally in the, internal world of emotions and thoughts. And so that's a really easy, beautiful place to start. And then just as you're saying, it's not black or white, right? So for me, over the years, it's been a really slow and kind of organic process as I introduced this practice, or I learned this practice, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like immediately just I let go of everything else and allowed this to replace, the typical holiday season. And in fact, my daughter still loves the Christmas tree. We have a giant
Yep.
baby blue Christmas tree that's really ridiculous. And this amazing ornament collection. A lot of them were passed down from my grandmother, and she's really particular about the way she places each, ornament. It's definitely a ritual that we're not letting go of. We still go to our family holiday party, but
Yeah.
I sort of, as the weather starts to turn and, you can feel autumn in the air, my thoughts turn towards the sacred nights, and I'm remembering, oh, I'm going to have this chance to reset and to dive inward. And that's what I get excited about. And I no longer get as wrapped up in or consumed by all of the holiday franticness,
Yeah.
even though it's
Yep.
still kind of there in the background. It's as if that stuff sort of, took a back seat, and now the 13 sacred nights is center stage for me. But it was a slow process. And like I said, we still do a lot of the typical holiday things. That said, I gave myself permission to no longer put up holiday lights around the house, which was like my dreaded yearly chore. I hated it. I had like the lights were always tangled, and there was like there's this one spot, this nail that's way up high that I can never reach, and the ladder, and that like my arms would get tired. I just freaking hated it. And so I just a handful of years ago was like, wait a minute, I don't have to do this. Why am I doing this? And so, so again, I think there's this, you can have this process of
Evolve.
deciding what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep. So, yeah.
No, I love that. And so it kind of builds in a way, like you really focus in on these 13 sacred nights. And it builds in kind of a roadmap, like you said, a blueprint for the months to come. But are there any then particular ways it connects then, like with the summer solstice or the equinoxes? Because they each have their own energy and their own, obviously it helps you kind of tune in because you've just worked on tuning in to this time of year. And which I think also to underline, I think is so important because it is the time to go deep. And when you say, what is nature doing? Well, everything's getting pulled in and down and it's quiet. And, there's so many things, that, we can find and see and look at. But I'm also now curious, does it, how it touches the rest of the year, just particularly at those inflection points.
Yeah. I think the 13 sacred nights practice itself, it does begin to tune you into the rhythm of the whole year simply because you're paying more attention as you pass through the year, because again, you've created this journal, but it doesn't supply any particular rituals for, say, summer solstice or the fall and spring equinox or the cross quarter days. I do offer 5 seasonal Qigong courses.
Oh, nice.
That they're pre-recorded, and so you could purchase them at any time if you just even if you didn't want to do them seasonally. It's through the lens of the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, water. And if you don't know anything about the Chinese philosophy, the 5 elements have all kinds of correspondences that go along with them. So each element correlates to something in nature. It correlates to a season. It correlates to a temperature, different organs, different tissues, different fluids in the body, different emotional states, different thought processes, different life events even. So the idea is that through these 5 elements, everything is expressed. So it's anything that we can experience in the known universe is some combination of these 5 flavors, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I have my 2 separate offerings, one being the 13 sacred nights practice and the other being neurogenic Qigong, which is my my other offering, I work with individual clients, and also teach. But yet they're also connected because of
Yeah.
that 5 element wheel and its correlation with the seasons. And so,
Mm.
but even just thinking, okay, what's happening in the spring? So we have our spring holidays of, Valentine's Day and Easter. And if you think back to cultures that were more immersed in nature and they didn't have the electric light bulb and certainly not
That's
phones in
right.
their faces all day long and all night long,
Hmm.
they were a part of these rhythms and this pulse and this, dark to light, the cycles that are in the solar cycle, in the moon cycles. You have
Yeah.
the full moon to the new moon, even sunrise to sunset. So there's the longer cycles and the shorter cycles, and
Mm.
they're everywhere. We're swimming in it. But these cultures were aware of that and really living into that relationship with nature. And so, what was happening in the spring? Well, things were being reborn, right? And so the
Yep.
spring celebrations were often celebrations of fertility. And
Yeah.
this is why we have the Easter bunny, the
Yep.
unquestioned champion of prolific breeding. I've looked up my unnecessary side story, but my mom has dementia, and she
Uh,
was feeding the wild cats for a while, and we couldn't get her to stop.
mm.
And so I looked up something about like how many cats could reproduce from like one mama cat, and over 7 years it was like 40,000 cats. And then
Oh my God.
yeah, and then later, as I was researching the history of our holidays, I looked up at how many rabbits could reproduce in the same period of time, 7 years, and it's like some astrological number that you can't even pronounce. It's to the nth degree. It's like beyond trillions. I mean, it's literally that would be like in ideal conditions where nobody gets eaten
Uh,
by predators or
sure.
whatnot. However, I
They
mean,
have that capacity,
they have that
right?
capacity. So hence we have the Easter bunny. These are, our we often don't question where, all
Mm-mm.
of the marketing and the
No,
branding of our current holidays actually originally came
I
from.
think
But
it's so important.
yeah,
Yeah,
but these are ancient pagan fertility symbols. So
absolutely.
and then in the summertime, it was really connecting with nature, full expansion, bonfires, community. You're expanded, you're out, you're in bloom. Again, you're living the dream. In the fall, it's really a natural time for humans to start thinking about the end of the cycle of life,
Yeah.
right? Because we see nature decaying all around us, plant matter decaying, and we naturally our psyche turns towards our own mortality and that the decay of life. And
Hmm.
so I love borrowing from the Mexican culture of the Day of the Dead
Yeah.
during Halloween. And listen, I love Halloween. Like my daughter, I mentioned earlier, she's a possessed musician, but she for the last handful of years, we've dressed her up as a different rock star every year, and then she'll actually learn, one of the songs from that rock star, and it's this
Sure.
hysterical tradition, and we have so much fun, and I love the creativity, but we also create an altar to what we call our dead people. And
Hmm.
we put up photos of ancestors and grandparents and or just friends who've passed, a favorite item of theirs, a favorite food with some flowers. We make it pretty. And, it normalizes the topic of death. It's no longer taboo. It's not something that you
Right.
don't talk about that's scary. And it's definitely not these hellish, gory images or, horror flicks that have become popular with the hyper commercialized American
Yes.
Halloween, right?
Yep.
That's a very twisted take on looking at death. And so it becomes a very normal conversation. And again, it's not
Hmm.
scary. And then it also over the years has created an opportunity for conversations about her grandparents or great grandparents or great
Yeah.
great grandparents to come through in a way that is natural, or maybe we never would have brought up otherwise. And so that's just been a really lovely ritual for
Absolutely.
the fall season that we include every Halloween while we're also dressing up
Exactly.
and doing
Right.
the costume thing. Yeah.
But it's like you're having to other people, it might look like you're just following along and having the same experience, but you're absolutely not, right?
Right.
You're having a
Yes.
whole other
Yes.
level,
I love the way
elevated
you said
level.
that.
It's not better, but it's definitely more conscious and expansive.
Oh,
And
I think it's better.
I do think I mean, I think it's better because I think anytime we're
Yeah.
more mindful about
Yes.
something and
Yes.
more conscious and not just, oh, this is what you do and kind of, like you said, sleepwalking through it, that
Right.
is better, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and it's more enjoyable. It's more meaningful. Like we're
Yes.
getting our
Yes.
deeper needs met,
It's
So
bringing the
yeah, that's
meaning back.
better.
Yes. It's bringing the meaning back, and everyone can do it in their own individual way. Right.
Yes,
But
exactly. There's no one way to do this. And
yes.
that's what I love too, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I love the way you said that, because one of the things that I often say is that with the 13 sacred nights practice in particular, the winter holiday season is especially frantic, right, for most folks.
Hmm.
And so I now, like I mentioned, I'm still doing a lot of the typical holiday stuff, not quite as intensely, but I'm still doing some of those traditions and things. But I'm walking through that season in a much different state. And it's as
Mm,
if I'm walking around doing my holiday shopping, getting prepared for a holiday meal, whatever it is, shopping at the, crazy grocery store with the nutty parking lot. But it's as if I'm walking around with a sacred little secret in my pocket. And
exactly.
there's an internal spaciousness where I'm catching the twinkle in people's eyes. I am feeling the
Hmm.
background stillness, even if
Mm,
in the foreground I'm witnessing, the sort of frenzy of the
yeah,
culture around me. I'm soaking in
totally.
something much more sacred, even though that external world may not look like it has changed. And along those lines, I get one question every year that comes around again and again that just it makes me laugh out loud every single time. And I have yet to walk through a year where somebody hasn't written in with this question. But um, they say I can't do the 13 sacred nights practice this year because, and wait for it, I'm going to be at my in-laws. And it's always,
It's always the in-laws,
it's always
not
the
my
in-laws.
family,
Yeah.
but I'm going to be at the
And
in-laws.
it just makes me laugh. So every year, so I can't do the practice. I'm going to be at my in-laws. Can I do it at another time? And and so the answer is no, you can't do it at
No,
another
this
time.
is the window.
Because
Exactly.
yes, we're aligning with real rhythms. We are
Hmm.
aligning with nature herself. Nature isn't going to scooch the practice over 2 weeks because you're going to be at your in-laws. But this is again another one of the gifts of the practice is
Mm,
can you learn to soak in that sacredness? Can you learn to merge with the backdrop of stillness and awareness and mindfulness no matter what is playing out
yeah.
on the stage in front of you, whether it's your in-laws or, I mean, one year my mom hit her head and we were in the ER in the hospital for the entire holy nights, sacred nights. And,
Wow.
I didn't get to go, oh, well, pause,
Yeah.
I'll do the practice later. It's like, no,
Exactly. Or mom, either I'm going to abandon you or the practice. It's like, nope,
no, the
this
practice
is,
is learning to walk through your life,
hmm.
whatever is unfolding, with awareness. So,
Here, here.
and that what a gift, right?
It
What a
is a
gift.
huge gift. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, um, yeah, exactly. So everything you're saying, I'm so on board for, and right from well, it's why I asked you to be on the podcast, right? It's like, yes, because these are the I mean, this is how I've designed my retreats, is around us practicing tuning back in. And the first place we need to tune into is nature, right? And the rhythms that are already there that we've only recently abandoned and it's not going
Yeah.
well. It's
Right.
just not going well for us. And we're sick.
Agree.
We're unhappy. We're sick.
Yeah.
It's really upsetting. And it's, so important, and I do think it's going to be more, women who bring us back, to
Mm.
it. And really want to empower us as kind of leaders of that, because I think we have a capacity to tune in and lead the way in that way. And, or if you're particularly tuned into your feminine energy, it's not like so gendered, but
Yeah.
I'm still going to just say it like women, this is a
Yeah.
superpower of ours to
Yes.
do it. And we just need,
Yeah.
what you're doing and this practice and your individual work with the neurogenic Qigong. I mean, all of that is like, it's all helping us like reconnect, rewire this, what has become these habits that are unhealthy, and retune in
Yeah.
to ourselves. And it's
Embody the mystery, right?
exactly. And,
Yeah.
and it's where we're more at home. And I think why, because I work so much with mothers, and even though I'm expanding that definition, it's not just mothers of children, but, mothers of children who feel so burnt out or lost, or like, why is this so hard? It's
Right.
because we've
Ugh.
been, you know,
Extracted from the
complicit,
tribe
but
and from nature.
attracted. Exactly. And
Yeah.
we're trying to do motherhood in a masculine way, and that just isn't going to
Ugh.
work. Right.
No.
Like,
Yeah. No, I
we can't
agree.
do it. We need these rituals, and we need
Yeah.
this. So
Let me
I'm
say
so
too,
grateful.
for moms in particular, this practice, again, I learned it the year my daughter was born.
Hmm.
Obviously, she didn't do the full practice when she was a toddler, or
Right.
but she's never known a winter holiday season without this practice. And when she
Hmm.
was little, she would see, me and her dad drawing our cards together on the couch and candlelight at night, and then she would get old enough to start drawing the cards. And the cards are, I have them right here.
They're so
The
beautiful.
images
Yeah.
are really beautiful, and kids love them. They love
Yes.
just
They're
to
gonna
draw,
tune right in. It's gonna feel.
so the
They're
images
really
are,
beautiful.
um, kids
Yeah.
love to draw a card, and then, when they're younger, you're not going to read them the whole essay that goes along in the guidebook,
No.
but you might pull out a word or two or a sentence that they would connect with, and just you
And they
slowly,
don't have to
organically.
understand, Laura.
No,
They
and
don't have to understand those words. Even if you read the whole thing, I think like that energy of it is just there for them to receive, but not so
yeah.
wordified,
Yeah. And then slowly, my daughter started, I don't remember what age, maybe 10, she started keeping a journal where she would just write down her card draw for each month, but not do the full journaling practice. And then when she was about 12 or 13, she started doing more of the actual
Hmm.
journaling, where you're journaling your life. And now of course she does the full practice, but
Sure.
or when they're younger, sometimes depending on what they card they drew, maybe they drew a turtle, maybe you go and get an actual little turtle for them to put
The totem.
by their
Yeah.
bedside, and they like more tangible things, and so you can get creative about bringing your kids in. And I did a podcast with my dear friend Alex Zeck, and he brought
Mm.
up the tradition of Santa Claus, and how he has three young ones, and how he was really battling with like lying to his children and then having to expose the lie years later. And we had this whole conversation, and I sort of, for the first time, thought about, oh gosh, yeah, my experience of, I remember my older brother telling me that Santa Claus wasn't real, and what a icky betrayal that felt like. I,
Mm.
I sort of felt like I remember the feeling of being embarrassed and hurt, and feeling like everybody was in on this joke but not me, almost like I was the
Mm.
butt of the joke. And so I wrote a whole article about it. If you're interested, you can go to my website, and
Hmm.
there's an article about the idea of Santa Claus and where actually Santa Claus came from in the first place. It's not what you would expect, but
Hmm.
but what I love about this practice is you never have to tell them that the magic isn't real and that it was all made up.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
fact, over the years, it is actually serving to strengthen their belief in and their ability to lean into that magic and to recognize
Hmm.
the magic within themselves. And there's no point when they're 7 or 8 years old where you have to say, just kidding, mommy and
Yeah.
daddy made it
Oh,
up.
this whole thing we did was,
It's not
not real.
real.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that about this practice. Yeah.
That's beautiful. No, I think, it was, uh, we walked that line, but I think it's really important. Again, it's one of those things like, how do you want to do it? And
Right.
what does this mean? And, we decided to still adapt it and say, well, do you believe in Santa Claus? Like, we try to convey it as like an energy, yes, this is how it is in the world, but is magic real? Yes. Can we receive gifts? Yes. Are there, and kind of like just really focus on the things that we felt like, were worth connecting to. And we
Yeah.
still got gifts, and we still,
Yeah.
we still did the whole thing. And we were like, would I do it differently? Possibly, but it's so, but
Yeah.
those are the things you get to
That's
wrestle.
what you
Like,
get
you'd
to
rather
choose.
wrestle with it than just like do it, kind
Right.
of unconsciously. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Well,
the whole idea.
I
Yeah.
would so love to keep going, but we're gonna
Yeah.
discipline ourselves to end, for now. So first, how will people find you? How do they find the 13? Like, what are just some of the ways or anything you want to say about, you know, people that are now like, I want to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So everything is on my website, which is very easy. It's just my name, Lara J Day, Lara. Do not sneak a U in there. So it's
Hmm.
Lara and then J, my middle initial, and Day, DAY, larajday.com. There's links to the Oracle deck, but it's on Amazon. It's at beyondword.com, which is my publishers. It's on Simon and Schuster, Barnes and Noble, all the regular places. And my seasonal 5 element Qigong courses are also on my website, as well as I do
Yeah.
a year-long mentorship, inner
Oh,
alchemy
great.
mentorship with the
Hmm.
neurogenic Qigong work, which is a whole separate offering that is tension and trauma releasing work
Mm,
combined with medical Qigong healing. And it's all there. It's all in that one
beautiful.
place. I'm most active on Instagram as far as social media goes. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no, wonderful. So lots of good ways. We'll have it in the show notes, but I just, we got to say it out loud so people
Yeah.
can
Thank you.
do that way. And then I always have one final question for my guests, and connecting this to my work. But what does rewrite the mother code mean to you?
Oh, I love that question. I think it's the same. I think that's what I'm doing. I'm just rewriting. I've got my little niche, right? I
Mm-hmm.
have my one little sliver, my contribution of
Sure.
us consciously pausing and choosing how we want to rewrite or write our stories rather moving forward, right? We don't
Mm-hmm.
need to rewrite the past, but how do we want to engage with our children, with our lives, with our holidays, there's all the different places in our experience to explore how we want to consciously choose to move
Yeah.
forward. And I love that there are so many brilliant people out there who have their own little niches. And
Oh,
I can
all
offer
the
this
little
holiday
niches,
piece.
right? I
And there's a
know.
million brilliant other men and women out there who are offering their little piece. And we all get to learn from each other and choose collectively and individually how we want to be
Mm-hmm.
human moving
Exactly.
forward.
And layers and weaving them. And,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. That's why, I thought it was so lovely to just have the chance to like speak about, this practice, because it's always so much more than like, oh, a 13-day Oracle practice,
Yeah.
it's no, when you really choose and decide to like, enter that space and pick that sacred time and devote this, things will happen, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
just be ready. And we avoid it sometimes because
Be ready for the
we say we
magic.
want change, but like, okay, well, here's something you could do for it. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to be at my
My
in-laws.
in-laws. No excuses. Yeah, the
No
magic is all around us and
excuses.
within us, no matter what is happening. It's full surrender, right?
You're
Yeah.
here. Well,
Yeah.
Laura, thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for being here. And I can't wait for everyone. Well, once they're hearing this, they'll be hearing it. But I'm excited
Yeah.
while we're recording that everyone in my audience is going to hear all about you and this beautiful practice.
Oh, thank you so much, Gertrude. This is really lovely. Yeah.
Oh, I feel so warmed and heartened, and it both brought back these beautiful memories of doing some rituals and practices that we created even before we had children, and then inviting children into it. And I was glad that we had, had support and the awareness to do some of the things that we were talking about. But I am also really excited to specifically do this practice that Lara presented today, the 13 days. And that's, mainly what I kind of want to underline is this isn't none of us have like the one practice that, you know, is the way to do it. And I think we say that, in this episode, that it really is finding something, trying it maybe as is, and then making it your own. And then, really creating it to what works for you, but keeping the essence, of something like this and like this practice. So it'll be fun to speak about it afterwards, and maybe we'll bring Lara back on at that time. But it really is, and from the beginning, the basis of when I started envisioning doing retreats, because I kind of came and went from how connected I've been. And I think it was during, particularly during COVID, when I felt like I was out of the city of Chicago and back in nature for extended period of times, and just felt the reconnection. And so I knew when I was going to start doing retreats, I'm like, has to be a part of it. Just seeing the power in using it. And I think I'm going to find, and Lara didn't say this explicitly, but not just as a metaphor, but as she said, you can't do this 13-day practice like in the middle of January. You are utilizing, the energy of that time, and it's a window. And that window is there for us, and we get to choose to step into it. It's a portal in its own container. So it's why I have really decided to do my retreats at those inflection points. And, I'm like, well, yeah, there's things I can bring to the table, but let's use Mama Earth, Mama Nature. Let's bring in all the potential energies that we can to tap into and to connect with, and to see how much a part of them we are. And when we tune in, it just takes a little bit of intention and mindfulness, and you're there, right? I don't think nature, Mother Earth, universe makes it hard for us. And that's what I've found as I've like just even turned my attention toward saying yes to the universe, and seeing the connection. Lara mentioned this. You just kind of laugh sometimes. You're like, oh, yeah, of course that appeared just now. And of course I'm being asked to do this today because you're in sync. And I think there's a real coming home to ourselves when we can be in sync like that. So would love to hear anything else that bubbles up for you. Please reach out. I always love hearing and responding, and DMing me on Instagram, shooting me an email, however it is you want to connect. I'm here for you. Thanks for tuning in. Blessed be. Thank you for being with me on this episode of Rewrite the Mother Code. Dive in even deeper into the content by visiting drgertrudelyons.com. And that's drgertrudelyons.com, where you'll find comprehensive show notes, blog posts, and ways to work with me. If this episode resonated with you and you believe in the significance of this transformative work, take action now. Hit that subscribe button and share this episode with a friend who could benefit from some mother healing. Your support means the world to me, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Leave a review today. Every word fuels the strength of Rewrite the Mother Code. I personally read and respond to each review, so your feedback is invaluable in shaping the future of the show. Together, let's empower our communities and create lasting change. Until we meet again, know that I'm cheering you on every step of the way.